This is Things You Might Not Have Heard, and I am Jay Cleveland Payne, and yes, this is what we're doing for Things You Might Have Heard for right now. We have 8 stories queued up for you for this Tuesday, the 8th of July, 2025, including an update on the Texas flooding, a new way to pay for that dream house, and why you can see a lot less of this guy in the upcoming college football season, and it makes sense. However, you're going to see these stories and 8 other stories, or 5 other stories, total of 8, that you guys deem conversational with the help of the internet. And I picked out as stories that people really want to chit chat about. So you'll get to those in just a minute. First, remind you that our website is thisisconversationproject.com with updates on this stuff. We've not updated lately because it's been kind of flux, but we'll get to something that's more steady pretty soon. But check us out for all the things, the sponsors, the partnerships, things like that. And of course, our sponsor for today is Ground News. Visit thisisconversationproject.com/Ground News for 40% off their plans for better news for you. Or, as I like to tell you, a flood of news, all the news that you can choose for yourself. As I said, 8 stories on the day. Starting off, unfortunately, more updates in Texas as the flooding, deaths from flooding has surpassed 100 right now, and the search and rescue operations are continuing. Now, listen to what I said. Search and rescue teams are still looking for people in debris and flood zones. They've not turned this into a recovery action yet. This is day 5 of the activity, but they are hoping for some people still surviving in some pockets and some places out there who are just stuck in places. This is not a pure recovery effort yet. Now, the biggest criticism happening right now that keeps this story going beyond the fact that it's a sad story is the state and federal officials who are facing essentially a lot of browbeating and beatdowns on slow evacuation protocols and emergency alerts. Now, there are a lot of issues here to talk about, including the fact that the water rose so fast, and many of these small towns, small rural places did not have the money to put updated flood warning systems in place. And these have been discussions that have been going on for a while in these places, but didn't have the money and the funds to make it happen. We know what happened in the circumstance. We go now to tariffs, with the deadline for the big massive sweep of tariffs from Liberation Day tomorrow, and we'll see what happens in those things. And we don't think we'll get 90 deals in 90 days, since 90 days is up tomorrow. But new tariffs have been announced specifically for Japan and South Korea, with an extra trade war escalating for those 2 nations and everyone else who hasn't been fit yet. 25% tariffs on imports from Japan and China, or in Japan and South Korea. Automobiles, semiconductors, consumer electronics, key export categories for both nations, back and forth, and we're throwing 25% on both of those nations. Economists have warned the move could destabilize the global supply chain, which they've already said before, and drive spikes in prices in the markets. Tokyo and Seoul have signaled possible retaliations, and they're, of course, taking up with the WTO. We have a couple of immigration ICE-related stories in today's broadcast, but the first one is this one that we basically saw coming because we've seen it coming already in many different communities. The U.S. is going to revoke the protected status for Honduran and Nicaraguan immigrants, and deportation fears are now higher in those communities where the Trump administration is announcing the end of the temporary protected status to people of Honduras and Nicaraguan descent. People came here basically fleeing and seeking asylum. Now don't have that blanket asylum. Now they must go through the process, and since they're technically illegally here, they'll start probably getting rid of them in some sort of manner. This is about 300,000 individuals who could face the long process of being deported, although many have been here for decades under TPS status. Advocacy groups are making moves to, of course, take this to court and talking about the widespread trigger, which could turn to family separations and economic hardship coming forward. Of course, the Homeland Security says this is just what's going to happen, and they just need to kind of get ready for it. Federal housing regulators have been directed, that being Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, to treat Bitcoin holdings as countable assets in mortgage applications. Your Bitcoin in your wallet can actually count towards what you have when you want to apply for a mortgage. Applicants must provide proof of legal ownership and evaluation at the time of underwriting. So it can go up, it's go down. You hope for a good day on the day you put in that paperwork, because that means better shot at getting that loan at the rate you're looking for. The policy shift aims to modernize lending criteria and reflect changes in personal finance trends, because many people actually own a good chunk of crypto that is worth something. If you bought Bitcoin a while back, it's probably worth a bit more than it is if you bought it recently because of the fluctuation. But critics also worry that the volatile market of the crypto and the risk of it going up and down may make the housing market a bit more fragile, because if you have a good day, it's great. If If you have a bad day, not so great. 4 stories in, 4 more stories to go. A very quick moment to remind you to like, share, and subscribe to our podcast because it's how we grow things here. I've been on a semi-weird hiatus and just kind of experimenting with things, so it hasn't been as consistent, but we have been putting out the hot takes and more stories and more longer stories to see what happens, and people have gravitated to those, so we've gotten some responses. If you like what you're watching right now or anything we're doing, hit the like on whatever it is you're watching this on. Most likely it's YouTube today. If you enjoy it and think other people would enjoy it or hate watch it, we're good with that as well. Share it with other like-minded folks. The more people that are engaged in it, the more the algorithm will share it with other folks as well and help us out as well. And subscribe because that's the main metric, especially on YouTube. We are at 2,200 and so many subscribers, trying to get to 2,300 in the next couple of days. You can help us kick that off. Thank you so much for joining and getting that one, because the closer we get to a larger number, the better it is for all of us, and more great news to come from this thing here. A coordinated federal operation involving military personnel and federal agents swept through Los Angeles' MacArthur Park early yesterday. The surprise presence in the densely populated immigrant neighborhood triggered confusion, fear, and speculation of a large immigration enforcement happening at the moment. Homeland Security actually confirmed that it was tied, their being there is tied to national security related warrants. But that's all they said, and that's all they did. Wasn't a big pickup on yesterday. Local officials were not briefed of what was happening in advance. Political backlash, bans for transparency, and Mayor Karen Bass saying, what the hell is going on with you people right here? Immigrant advocacy groups are condemning this show of force, because it basically was an intimidation factor, and saying that the tactic is using to deter cooperation with law enforcement, which is not what you actually want. You want more people to give freely of themselves if things are going wrong, not go run and hide because they think they're going to be deported. Literally, no arrests, no seizures were disclosed at all. Essentially, they just showed up, hang out in the park, and just was there. But this continues the saga that is the Battle of Los Angeles as the United States has invaded the City of Angels. Meet Kirkpatrick, the fictional head coach of the University of Colorado, and Hector Luna, the fictional head coach of the University of North Carolina. And what's weird is that Luna's black, which is really, really weird, and a B+. But the oddity of this all is they don't have to be, or technically they do have to be, because College Football 25 is coming out from EA Sports. They're coming back with a new college football game this season, and because Mr. Sanders and Mr. Belichick, the actual head coaches of those teams, have not signed the waivers to give their likeness to the game, they can't be in the game. So you get Patrick and Luna. What you also get some cryptic messages from Coach Sanders, who's saying, "Kid, check things out. There may be other things coming going forward." But Belichick is basically known to never been in any of the pro football games as Bill Belichick, coach of the Patriots. So that's not a new thing. We're going to see what happens as people are basically getting back into the world of college football in video games, as people have been clamoring for a while. The likeness and the images for the kids, folks playing the game, they're more than happy to give up their generic licenses and maybe some names, because that means they get money in their pocket due to the cash that's in the actual things. But Sanders saying stay tuned. Maybe there's some speculation that he'll be put in an update someplace going forward. Belichick, I'm sure you have to talk to his girlfriend. I don't think he's going to be there anywhere inside this game. But why? Why Hector? Why Hector Luna? A very disturbing and very sad story out of Australia, as a woman has been convicted of murdering 3 family members with a meal laced with toxic mushrooms. She is suspected of serving a fatal beef Wellington during a family lunch at her home in Australia. Forensic tests confirmed the presence of the death cap mushrooms, which are highly lethal, grown in the wild. So there was basically a wild mushroom beef Wellington. Prosecutors argue she intentionally poisoned the meal to kill her family. The defense says it was accidental. She just thought wild mushrooms would be great in the meal. The case has shocked Australia and renewed calls for stricter regulation on wild mushroom handling. This is something that, oddly enough, in places like Australia, happens more often than you think, because people go out and grow wild mushrooms or gather them and try to cook in them and use them for medicinal purposes. And unfortunately, sometimes these things happen. I'm sure you weren't looking for an earworm for the day, but why don't you go ahead and put in your head 1 in a Million by Guns N' Roses, because some reason It's here, and it really has nothing to do with this song. I just popped up there, but I guess the thought of an earworm and that popped in my head. But different worms to deal with. These are flesh-eating maggots, and how we're going to fight them with fire, in a sense, or with other flies. The U.S. Department of Agriculture will release billions of sterile flies to combat a flesh-eating parasite called the screwworm. The fly release is part of a long-standing biological control program that actually dates back to the 1950s. We've been doing this for quite some time to get rid of some pests, and we'll see how it works for this actual infestations. A recent flare-up in northern Mexico and southern Texas prompted this urgent intervention for this one right here. Officials say the sterile flies prevent reproduction and help eliminate the outbreaks without any pesticides. You don't have to spray any sprays because the flies you release will mate with the flies that are pregnant. They won't have babies. So we technically have less flies, less worms, less maggots, less goings on in the natures. Critics actually question the ecological impact of, sending out lots and lots of flies, but scientists defend the program's track record, saying it works and it saves the environment because less of the chemicals, less bad stuff in the air, in the ground to make things worse. Quick word about our sponsor, which is Ground News. Visit thisisaconversationproject.com/ground news. This is an affiliate sponsor, so we get a small commission for you joining on with them. They will give you news coverage that's like none other because it's news coverage of all kinds. If you are a siloed news reader, siloed news consumer, and only listens to one sort of brand, and want to know what the other side is talking about, what they either are hiding from you or what they think they're trying to make worse for you, whatever your mindset is, Ground News is the place to go. It will give you things that, including its blind spot feature, will tell you exactly what one side of the silo is selling to you and what the other side is trying to get into your head. Because I give you all the news from all the sources and let you know what the sources actually stand for. Are they liberal or the conservative, who owns them, and what they're actually saying in their actual reports. You get to see side-by-side comparisons of the headlines and of story clips, so you can take the news in your own hands and understand what is being said, and then make decisions for yourself. Visit thisisaconversationproject.com/ground news for 40% off their plans, including Advantage plans, which gives you everything you can get in news coverage. We use Ground News to check stories all the time, so we are a consumer before we were a client, if you will, before we started selling them as advertisement. We want you to be a part of the gang here to check your own stuff, literally do your own research with actual research. Visit thisisaconversationproject.com/ground news today. This is an affiliate link. We get a small commission for you getting out this, but you get 40% off your plans on Ground News, including their Vantage plan. That's it for Tuesday, the 8th of July, 2025. Much shorter, much less concise. There's not less of the jabber and the salesy stuff. I know that's there, but we are going to try to do something more or less like this going forward for things you might not have heard. It won't be the live version, so we'll lose out on some of that Google juice, but we're going to do what we can to improve on this. So let us know how to improve on this. Remember, our website is thisisaconversationproject.com. You'll see replays and updates and cups of the newsletters, things going that way. Plus links to our partnerships site if you want to help partner up and help us to do more stuff. Links to our sponsors where you can buy stuff from them and we get small commission from them, and just other fun stuff as well. Love you guys. Mean it. I love getting a chance to do this. It's been torture not doing anything like this for a while. I have to get back and swing things, get this into some severance of a actual routine, make it work, make it come through. And now I'm editing again, so it's all that stuff. But love you. Mean it. Let's see. We'll see you tomorrow. Love you. Mean it. Let's see if we see you tomorrow.